Please begin your psychological evaluation. Please describe your physical and emotional state.
I feel good. I am calm and ready to perform my job to the best of my ability. I have had approximately 5.5 hours of sleep last night. I dreamt a lot of Brad Pitt and space. My heart rate constantly was over 80, but I do believe that I will be able to perform my job to the best of my ability and review films in a calm and concise manner.
Psychological evaluation failed. Please rest and try again.
All right, let's talk about Ad Astra. This is our first episode. It's gonna be a little rocky, but before we dive in, let me just tell you what's in store. We get our name, Bedtime Movies, because, you guessed it, we're gonna talk about movies that you can watch when you go to sleep. New releases come out all the time, and they're exciting, and it's something new and unfamiliar, and then you get home, and you can't just watch it right away. It's not downloadable. You don't have it on DVD, but you're still in like movie mode, right? So what are you gonna watch? Well, I always watch a movie to go to bed to, always, much to the dismay and frustration and irritation of everyone I've ever dated. I can fall asleep to the loudest action-packed movie, things set in space with lasers and people screaming in horror films, and I am like a baby, like. But the hardest part of it is always kind of deciding what thing you're in the mood to watch after you watch something else. So, we're gonna do movie reviews, but we're not gonna go crazy pants with the like plot and whatever, because there's a bajillion other people. If you scroll, all you're gonna see is movie review after movie review after movie review, where they tell you the whole movie and whether they liked it or not. We'll talk about it, but that's not what this is for. This is like a fun experiment. So, think of it as like 2-3 movie reviews in one. Yeah, and I hope it works, and I hope you have fun watching. This first episode, we're going to talk about Ad Astra. Ad Astra is the new Brad Pitt in space movie, which is what I was calling it before we went inside. Brad Pitt in space. I've also heard the tagline, "In space, no one can hear you cry." I didn't cry watching it. I didn't even really get very emotional. And maybe it's because I don't have like daddy issues, or maybe because, I don't know, space just doesn't do it for me the way it used to, but something was a little bit off. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am, without a doubt, the biggest Brad Pitt lover. I love that man so much. So much so once I met him at a coffee bean in Los Angeles years and years ago, like pretty, like, when was that, like the late 90s. So it was like long-haired in a beanie Brad Pitt, like primo Brad Pitt time. I was standing in a coffee bean in line, and he was right behind me, and I thought I was gonna die. You know, you just like flop sweaty, oh my God kind of feeling. So what I did, because you can't just talk to Brad Pitt, right? Nobody would ever do that. So I did this little thing where I like sidestepped back, and then like put the pressure on one side, and then I did it again. And this line was long, and we were waiting for our coffees like forever. So I did it like really slow and just backed up and then backed up again. And eventually, of course, because he's only like that far away from me, I bumped into him, right? And then I whizzed around and was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I touched him right here. And he's a tall cookie, and I'm a short cookie. So he just kind of made this face of like, with like that shirt-eating grin kind of face that Brad Pitt has. And that was it. That was the whole interaction, but it was literally one of the sexiest moments of my entire life. So anyway, story aside, I love Brad Pitt, and I'm willing to see him do anything. I will watch him go to space. Basic premise of the movie is Brad Pitt wants to go to space. Well, he's being told to go to space because there's these things happening called the surge, where like he's an astronaut, and he was like just outside of Earth, and all these things were like blowing up. And supposedly it's very realistic, according to like real spacey people, because like there weren't explosion noises. And that was great. I think that stuff is awesome. But you see that in the trailer, right? And then his dad is like master space dude that left when he was young to go on a mission to Neptune and like deal with stuff, explore, find aliens. And his dad is played by Tommy Lee Jones, who I've never really had a thing for. There's something about Tommy Lee Jones, especially in the 90s and stuff when he was like real big, where he just kind of drove me crazy. But as I'll explain later, that's not really so much of a problem because this movie's really just a Brad Pitt vehicle. They have this thing in the trailers and the previews where they show all these actors, and it's like this star-studded cast of all these people. Like they're like, hey, look, it's Liv Tyler in love with the space guy again. Because if you've ever seen Armageddon, you know, she's like, that's my father up there. She like loved her dad, Bruce Willis, and she was married to Ben Affleck. So she was, there's children playing outside. Can you hear that? Gross. Anyway, so she's like loving all these things about space. I was like, oh, another Liv Tyler space movie. Then there's like Ruth Negga, who's like this new amazing actress. And who else? And Donald Sutherland is in it. It's just like going to be this like pow, 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 all these stars. Well, I just had like a weird notification. Anyway, now it's not really any of these stars. It's pretty much just Brad Pitt. If you're going to like have a Liv Tyler moment, go see something else because she's barely in the movie. Almost everybody in that cast list that I just said, they're barely in the movie. It's like glorified cameos for everyone. There is a cameo in the movie that they don't talk about in the previews, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but I will say that it is one of my favorite people. It is a female performer who is freaking amazing, and I love her so much. And you see her when you go to Mars, and I almost started clapping. Like in the theater, I had to like stop myself because I was so excited. And then I was like, this is gonna pick up because she can pick up a movie, and then that's it. It's so weird. I don't understand why she's in the movie at all, but she is. When you see it, if you've seen it, you'll know who I'm talking about. I wanted her to be like on the quest with him for the rest of the movie, but she's not. End all be all, the movie looks really good. Of course it looks really good. Space stuff nowadays, they can do anything. So I saw it in IMAX, so it was the biggest screen I could imagine. I just kind of laid back in my chair, like my feet up, and I was just like, I am in space. And then that's it. I got so bored. I found it so boring. And at first I was like, I can't believe Brad Pitt forsake me. Like, he's always amazing. And it wasn't until later, until I got home, I'm doing this a couple days after I saw it, where I had to really think about it and be like, well, no, he's forsaken me before. There are other Brad Pitt movies I do not necessarily enjoy. Off the top of my head, like Cool World, Devil's Own, that Tibet movie. Like, he's not a solid batter, you know? I don't know about any sports. I don't know anything about sports. Is that a thing? But his record isn't always perfect. But it looks pretty. Brad always looks pretty. There are moments in IMAX where I was like seeing things so close up that I was like, is that what Brad's nose always looked like? Like his nostrils seemed very big, but I think it was just the screen I saw it on. And he's beautiful in it. His performance is very sweet. I heard people outside the theater being very touched because of the father-son dynamic between him and Tommy Lee Jones. Again, that didn't really do it for me, but it did it for other people. And I have a huge belief when you watch more of these videos that movies are not for everyone, right? So something that I didn't necessarily love doesn't mean you're not gonna love it. And some things that I love so much, other people can't stand. I'm like the king of a polarizing movie. I love movies sometimes that people hate. Like, I loved Mother by Darren Aronofsky, that Jennifer Lawrence movie. I loved it. Saw it 3 times. I literally had to find people over the course of a year just to talk to about that movie with, because nobody liked it. But I really liked it. It's also the last video I'm ever going to do with my window open, because apparently New York City is still loud. Who knew? All right, so the other part of this is the recommendations for bedtime, right? So when I got home, I was trying to think, like, what do I want to watch after watching a very boring Brad Pitt movie where he is very sad? My first thought was that most space movies, the guys are kind of sad. In fact, you could watch Ocean's 11, and almost every male actor in that movie is sad in a space movie. So you could pick The Martian, or you could pick Gravity. You could pick all sorts of movies where it's like these people that, and it's what I don't understand. They have devoted their lives, right? Not these actors, but astronauts, space folk. Their whole life is about getting to outer space and like seeing all the space. And then when they do it, they look miserable. And sure, some of these movies, it's like the apocalypse. Like Interstellar's not a good time. They're like, my world is destroying, I need to go do this. Most movies are like, I'm going to space because the world is effed up and I have to go save it. But would it kill them to like have wonderment? Like, has Steven Spielberg made a space movie anytime recently? Last I could think of is like War of the Worlds. But Spielberg is really good at the whole like kind of thing. And I feel like there needs to be some wonder in these scenarios. Like, you don't feel like Brad Pitt wants to be there the entire movie. And you don't feel like that about anybody. Like, anyone that I could think of. So, I was trying to think of, like, a space movie that gave me what I was missing out of this movie. And I think Interstellar was the first one I could think of just because it's the most recent that was really impressive. But I didn't want to watch it. And then finally, I thought, oh my God, I can think of one movie where the person gets to go to space and they genuinely are like, ooh, space. And it was Contact, that like 1997 Jodie Foster movie written by Carl Sagan, that novel. Jodie Foster can make anything interesting, but Jodie Foster was like, space. So that was the movie I watched when I got home. And I recommend it. It has a really good intro, kind of how they like start at Earth and you hear all the noise and then it goes farther and farther and farther and farther and farther and farther out into space. You even hear the Spice Girls. But starts good. I forgot Jenna Malone plays her as a kid. That was really cute and like a surprise. Matthew McConaughey and her have terrible chemistry. But, and he has a mullet. So it's like, there's things you have to forgive. But when it does finally get to space stuff towards the end of the film, it's worth the price of admission. It's fantastic. Sometime, if you know me personally, ask me to tell you my Contact story, because the night that I saw that movie back in the day was a story, but it's not safe for the internet, so I can't share it with all of you. If you don't feel like watching Contact, which is understandable, it's a little dated, it's an older movie, you could be like, I loved seeing Brad Pitt really sad. I want more of that, right? Because Brad Pitt sad is kind of intriguing. There's some good Brad Pitt sad movies. So I was thinking about that too, because I almost went that direction. And I thought maybe we could watch Seven, because he really freaks out. But that's a hard movie to go to sleep to. It doesn't even start nice. Like, it's just like, right away. And then I had this brain, like, light bulb. The best sad Brad Pitt movie that will give you good dreams is Interview with a Vampire. You could watch that because there's so many other people, like the promise of this movie Ad Astra had, that are also incredible actors who are not super sad. So they balance Brad out. Like, Brad is at his peak of his beauty. He's all puffy-lipped and watery eyes, and he's miserable, and he hates being a vampire. But then you have Brad Pitt being like, or Tom Cruise, I'm sorry, being like, I'm short, and I'm a vampire, and I'm so happy. And you have Kirsten Dunst in the best debut I've ever seen, where she's like, I'm a kid, and I'm a vampire, and I'm still hungry. And you have Antonio Banderas doing his sexiest Antonio Banderas with this long hair that shouldn't look good, but it does look good. He looks so sexy. And like, it's just eye candy. The music's great. Christian Slater's in it in the beginning. Gives you all the things you need with some sad Brad, and it gives you good dreams. So, hopefully you like this first entry. We're getting some fancy lights sent to us probably tomorrow or the next day. So the next ones will be a little prettier. But for now, we just had to rip the Band-Aid off and start this project. I'm glad you're watching. Thank you so much. I don't know where the button is, but subscribe, like me, write a comment that's not mean. If someone did write a mean comment, fight back. And as always, the best part of film is the debate and the discussion. So go down here, talk about what you liked about this movie. If you loved Ad Astra, tell me why. If you agree with me at all, tell me some space stuff that you really love. 2001 is amazing, right? Why is it taking so long for somebody else to make something like that? because it's Stanley Kubrick and no one's ever going to be able to do that. I love ya. I hope you have sweet dreams tonight. Thanks for watching. Mwah. Good night.